So welcome to Bigfoot Odyssey. My old friend Jeff Sheppard and Sasquatch, fellow student of Sasquatch. Jeff has been for quite some years now a BFRO investigator in eastern Massachusetts, but he ventures up far north into Maine and New Hampshire, and is an extremely hardworking, dedicated researcher. And I'm very happy to have you on with me tonight. Jeff, welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
So perhaps you could give us just a paragraph or so on what brought you to this strange line of work.
Okay, well, I guess like a lot of folks, as a kid, I had interest in just unique things like the Yeti, and growing up on the coast of Massachusetts, sea monsters and sea serpents, and I did have a kind of a fascination with like UFOs and all that good stuff too. But not until a number of years ago was I really motivated to do any real research, and that's because I could say now I guess I was a trail runner, because this has kind of ruined trail running for me. But in I guess a good way. It's just tough to go trail running and see like cool stick structures, and then I stop and my run goes away. But I was trail running a number of years ago, and I had an experience which kind of stopped me in my tracks, and I kind of started questioning what was going on in the forest around me, and I just happened to stumble across the show Finding Bigfoot, and I watched the show a few times, and then I started putting two and two together, and it's like, hey, I think there's something going on around here in this forest I'm running in, and one thing led to another, and I found some really cool stuff.
Oh, excellent. Well, you could go on for hours, as I very well know from being on many expeditions with you. You're one of the most entertaining storytellers in the biz, but tonight, if we can, I thought we would focus on Sasquatch eyes. And many people in the field have been dancing around the issue for years about whether or not they are capable of producing a glow out of their eyes independently, or whether this is just reflection. And you have a story that, to me, is the best demonstration of the fact that they produce this light. They're capable of bioluminescence in their eyes, and it's just that's that. For me, it's an open and shut case after I've heard many people talk, but really yours was the coup de grace, the final nail in the coffin of the skeptics who said there's no way they could produce light. It must only be reflection. So perhaps you could roll out that story for us. It was a cold and rainy night in Maine.
Up until that night in Maine, I was still thinking, which way could it be? But it was really kind of a fun experience. I had done a report with a young lady who had found some cool footprints. This was back in 2017 in February. She had found some pretty cool footprints. Was really excited, found a trackway in the snow, and it was really awesome, and she was pretty cool. And then there was a Maine Dave. Dave is a wonderful man, and I had met him the previous year. Same thing, he'd been finding trackways, and so he had invited me up, and he had been, sending me pictures, and it'd been going on for about a year or so, and so he invited me up in April of 2017. And then I said, hey, there's this really, nice woman in, southern Maine. She's never been out with anybody before. Do you mind if she comes along? And he said, sounds like a great idea. So the three of us met up in his research area.
And her name was Kate, right?
Kate, yeah, Kate. She's really nice.
Yeah, I met her. She's great.
Yeah, and so we decided on where to go, because there are two research areas, probably about 5 or 6 miles away from each other. In one research area, he has had a visual sighting of one Squatch, and he, is under the assumption that there are two that live in this one area. And then where we had our encounter, there are approximately 7 that live in that area. And so we had decided, based on terrain, that we would go to the area where the two were, because he was pretty excited about finding a structure that he wanted to show us. So, it's like, okay, so we packed up, and it was just about dusk at the time. And so we went over to this area, and he showed us this really awesome tree that had been turned upside down with a root ball. Root ball was probably about, and right on the edge of the swamp too, root ball was probably, I would have to, if I remember correctly, it was probably about 12 feet off the ground. Big tree, really, really awesome. So as we're in the swamp, we started looking about, and we came across a pretty fresh 13-inch footprint that was coming out of the swamp, and it was really neat. It had water in it, and you could see the toes, and so we're all pretty excited and pumped, and it's like, oh, this is awesome. And we continued to kind of go about the area, check some stuff out. But as it was getting darker, we decided to go back over to the other area. The train was a little easier to maneuver in the dark, so we went back over there. So we went into this area, and Dave showed us where he had initially found footprints, and so we're going through this huge field, and it's like, hey, let's venture over into this gravel pit. I've found footprints down here, and so he's kind of giving us the grand tour, and we're wandering about, and at one point, we kind of were startled by a bird. I can't remember if it was a turkey or a pheasant that kind of flew out of a tree, which was really...
I know. That kills you when that happens.
Yeah, oh my God, what was that? Kind of thing. And, and at this point, it's like, ooh, we were debating, should we go down into this hollow down here? But Dave was really excited because he had said that he had found what he referred to as a gathering place, and that really piqued my interest. I'm like, ooh.
How can you not go once somebody says the G word?
Gather, and I'm like, yeah, okay, how do you know that? And but Dave has never, he's always been honest with me and up front, and so I'm like, he's got something, so let's go look at it. And so we're wandering about, and we're just out having fun looking at different things. And at one point we stopped, and we encouraged Kate, and she belted out this awesome howl. We weren't doing like any tree knocking or anything like that, but we were out there having fun. So she let out this.
Was it raining at this point?
No, not quite yet. But it was getting dark, and it was overcast and stuff. So she belted out the howl, and gee, there was nothing there. So we continued on. And so we kind of circled back into this field to head over to the woods, and that's when, it starts to rain, temperatures are dropping, and now it's getting pretty dark, and it was really neat, though, because we were marveling at the fact that, like, hey, there could be anything behind any of these bushes or trees watching us, and we'd never know. It's just really stinking dark. So then, by this point, now it's absolutely torrentially pouring out. Quite dark. Temperatures had dropped down into the middle 30s. It was really wet, really muddy. We found our way over to this fence that we had to kind of crawl through, and it was really neat because at one point David found tracks that went literally to the fence, and they walked over this fence. And I guess the fence is probably maybe 4 feet high or so, but to see a picture of like, hey, here's a track, there's the fence, there's a track on the other side. Really pretty cool. So we worked our way through the fence, and now we're on this ATV trail that goes down into the woods, and it's muddy as all can be, and it's icy, and, in Maine sometimes the weather isn't that good, and sometimes winter kind of hangs on, so there was still some ice about and stuff. As we went down into the woods, I think Kate felt a little creeped out, and she's like, hey, can I kind of walk between you guys? And it's like, yeah, why not? What the heck, we wanted her to feel comfortable. So, we kind of, kind of spread out. They each had at this point, they each had a flashlight on so that we could see. Once we got into the tree line, man, it was pitch black. Again, we're slipping and sliding, and the mud was awful. And so, after about 10, 15 minutes of this, it was like, I suggested that we leave. It's like, hey, Dave, it's not worth it. Somebody's going to get hurt. And one of the big things with squatching is, you don't want anybody to get hurt. But he was like, no, let's show, Kate the giant trail marker. So at this point, we continue walking up the trail because he's like, I know it's here. It's not too far away. And at this point, he's almost, I wouldn't say frantically, but he's with urgency pointing his flashlight into the woods, kind of going back and forth with it. And then at that point, it was like, oh my, he took the light and went right across something's face. And as soon as the light hit the face, these eyes just lit up. It was like, boom, they lit up. And as soon as the eyes lit up, I told, Dave and Kate to shut their flashlights off. So they immediately shut their flashlights off. And then this was kind of to the left of us on the trail. And so as they shut the flashlights off, to the right of the one that he put the light in its face, two more sets of eyes immediately lit up. Boom, boom. Oh, it was amazing. And we were in awe. And it's like, oh my God. And we're being really quiet and we're kind of whispering. And then all of a sudden to the right of us, boom, 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 boom. More eyes just lit up. And it's like, holy crap. And
What color? What color were they?
they were white, and I guess, I don't know if everybody sees the color the same. I saw more of a white, where I think Kate and Dave might have seen white and yellow, but I was kind of seeing white. And so at that point there, it was like, oh my God, we're in between like two groups. And what was really kind of unique was the interaction. There was one on the right side that seemed to want to go back over to the left to be with the other three. But it would move, it would stop, it would go back. It would move, it would go back. And then at one point, the three to our left drifted back into the woods out of sight. And then we heard this amazing, like, Ohio howl. And it was just crazy. It belted out, and we're all in awe. And it's like,
For those viewers who don't know the Ohio howl, it goes something like this. Oh! Then it goes on for about 20 seconds.
it was amazing, and it seemed to come from the direction, where we had previously been, And again, we're like, holy mackerel, this is really amazing. And then
So is the rain pounding down now so that you can't hear them walking, or?
Yeah, we couldn't really hear anything, but between the water dripping from the tree. At this point, I did have audio equipment with me, but I chose not to take it out of my pack just because it was absolutely pouring out. And then once the encounter started to happen, I wasn't by myself, so I don't think I really needed the recorder. Because I had someone else with me, two other people, like amazing people, who could verify what I heard, and I could verify what they heard and saw. So it was more of a case of we were being witnesses, I guess, versus being investigators or researchers. And so I was just really happy of being in the moment.
Oh, yeah.
And again, I think a lot of people are like, well, why did you take a picture, And the same thing, in the moment, it was like we were experiencing this. It was pretty crazy. So on our left, then the one on the end, which I'm assuming was the first one we saw, came back out of the woods, and it was standing there. And then eventually the other two drifted out. And all the while, the other one to our right kept wanting to go back and forth. And so me being me, I'm like, hey, let's go a little further up the trail. And so I started walking up the trail a little more. And again, lights are out. It's pitch black. Our eyes have pretty much acclimated to what light there was. There was no real ambient light. There's always some ambient light, I guess, but, the moon, there was no moon. It was just pouring out.
This is like the least ambient light situation you could be in, if you weren't underground in a cave or something.
Honest to goodness, it was pretty crazy. So as I started to move forward, I forget what Kate had some sort of an exclamation like, oh my God, or something. And did you see that? And I'm like, no. Oh my God, what did you guys see? And Dave's like, oh my God, that's amazing. And so I went back to them to try to get the angle they were at, but apparently one of them was standing so close to the other one that they could actually see like the face of one of them. And
in the glow of the other one?
In the other one's eyes, and I was really bummed out because I didn't see it at all. I'm like, oh, curses. So at that point, it's like, okay, well, let's get closer. So at that point, I started moving up again, and that's when we got the first growl. So I kind of knew that we were kind of maybe pushing it a little. We'd maybe overstayed our welcome a little bit. So they kind of, Dave and Kate came up a little closer with me, and and then at that point I said, hey, a little further. And then we moved further forward, and oh my goodness, that's when the growl really got intense, and you could literally feel it in your chest.
From one of them or from more than one?
Just one of them. It's really weird. It was like almost on the ones on either end, all the way to the right, all the way to the left. They were almost like sentries or something, or maybe they were the older ones. But this one was definitely standing its ground, and it growled at us to the point where you could literally feel like it in your chest and in your body. And at that point there, I said, yeah, I think it's time.
At that point there, I felt a primal choice coming up in my mind. It really was no choice.
It was called flight. And at that point, we turned around, we thanked them, and it was time to leave. So.
Did the color of the eye glow always remain the same for you? Or did it shift around? Some people, describe it as going to different colors.
For me anyway, when I saw it, it was white. Again, as I mentioned, I think with Dave and Kate, they saw yellow also.
Yeah, so nothing else. And did you see them blinking and turning their heads and such?
It seemed to be that they would shift their bodies, so I don't think we were quite close enough to see the blinking at that point. But they would shift their bodies and move so that it would kind of come in and out. But they, other than the one that seemed to want to go back to the other group, most of them just kind of stood their ground and until things were over. After we started our retreat, or I guess after we decided that it was time to go, we went probably 20, 30 feet down the trail, before, Dave and Kate turned their flashlights on. As I said, we did thank them and kind of apologize for disturbing them, and then we kind of went on our way. And once, Dave kept looking over his shoulder, like, hey.
As you might, yes.
No, but it was really kind of cool. Hey, nothing following us. So we started getting pretty confident and like, hey, that was amazing, and we were like just really pumped.
Start to celebrate instead of being enveloped in fear.
And it was really neat because Kate went through many emotions there, and it was her first time out actually like squatching with anyone.
Talk about beginner's luck. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, she was so excited when she found, her trackway, and actually when she found the trackway, she got a picture of a nice green orb also, which was really kind of cool. So we're talking, and we finally break out of the woods. It's still torrential downpour, but now we're out of the woods, so there's a little more light, so we're pretty happy. And as we work our way back through the fence, and we're starting to walk through the field. And at that point, we had about maybe a half a mile to go to get to our vehicles. And we're walking through the field, and Kate was like, "Hey, do you guys hear something?" And it's like, "Oh, well, what do you hear?" "Well, something I think is following us to our left." And sure enough, it'd be the walk, stop, and you'd hear thump, thump, stop. And which was really kind of cool. It's like, oh, apparently somebody's escorting us out. And at that point, Dave said, oh, yeah, I found that in the winter, they tend to circle, around the field. And I've found a trackway down through there where they circumnavigate the field so that I guess they're just not leaving, as many blatant footprints. So he was like, yeah, I'm sure that they're there. So we're walking along, and we're talking, we're having fun, we're really happy because, oh my goodness, we get to see some cool tree structures, we found a footprint, we stumbled across the gathering spot where...
It really was the gathering spot.
It really was, and then we had all the cool glowy eyeballs, and we heard the awesome howl, and then the growling, which, didn't turn bad, and so then we can literally see, we turn this corner, and we can see in the distance where our cars are parked, and I'm a little ahead of Kate and Dave, so I turn and look over my shoulder to talk to them, and then I'm like, holy crap. You guys, don't turn around too quick, guys, but behind us, in the corner over there, there's something with blinking green eyes watching us. And so, at that point, we stop and we're talking, and then, we all kind of turn around, and sure enough, there's something over there. And
so at this point, you were able to see blinking, so it must have been a little bit closer than in the woods.
Yeah, it was, and so it was pretty cool, and I've never.
And she said to us that day when we were all three at that BFRO town hall that she had cried on the way home, right? Oh my God, I'm so jealous. I'm so happy for you guys that you got that.
Here we are driving through Iowa, look at all these fields. There's where are the trees, And so eventually we got to where we were going, and it was beautiful. We were in this awesome state park, really great. And so we'd drive around and say, well, look, every time we'd come in and out, we'd see this really cool bridge. It's like, oh, I wonder what's up there. So first night, we met up, and a lot of people on the expedition too. There were 45 people. Pretty amazing place. And so apparently, from what I understand, it sells out most every year. They have such good activity. So we're scoping places out. We're just following the crowd. Again, we're newbies and stuff. And so the second night, the first night we're out. Then we come back in really late, and everybody gets together. And this one group said, "Oh my God, down by the abandoned bridge, we had an encounter. We were encircled, and there was all sorts of eye shine." It was pretty amazing. And so at that point, the following night, when everybody was deciding where to go, Kate and I are like, "Oh, I think that's probably a really good idea. Let's,
When you say eye shine, do you mean eye shine or eye glow in that first case?
Well, back then I was like, it's got to be eye shine. It's got to be eye shine, And that's where, I was first introduced to the whole debate over eye shine, eye glow. And there were 13 people in one group, and then there were six guys in another group. So we went ahead just talking and just being regular folks walking in the woods, just out just having fun and stuff. And it was really great, So we walked down to the end of this road, and there's this really, old bridge that's blocked off on both sides to keep vehicles from going over it. And, we set up there, and I was really amazed because they started call blasting a children's birthday party, giggling and games. And I'm, again, thinking to myself, this is a little odd, but hey, these guys know what they're doing, so they must know something. And what was cool, right behind us, there was this huge cliff. It was probably close to 80 to 100-foot cliff. And so the plan was call blast, go crazy, have fun, make noise, let them know that we were there. And then the other group was going to come up behind us silent. And so when they were coming up silent, they were going to signal us, and then we were going to stop all the call blasting and then just hug into the shadows of that cliff. And so sure enough, plan comes to take effect. We all immediately go quiet, and then so we hug in onto the into the darkness, and these six guys come up absolutely silent. None of them had any they had headlights, but they weren't on. So they walked by us silently. They went around the barrier, across the bridge, went around the other barrier, and disappeared in the distance. So myself, this wonderful woman from, I think she's from Chicago, and then a really nice guy from Wisconsin, the three of us kind of snuck back out onto the bridge, and we were watching them walk into the distance and disappear from our sight. At that point, the woman from Chicago was like, again, we're being really quiet and trying to be stealth, I guess. And so at that point, she's like, oh my God, I think it was 9 o'clock in the woods, 9 o'clock to the left. And, we kind of look, and she's like, I see red. And sure enough, it's like, holy moly, there's something with glowy red eyeballs coming up out of the woods. It came up out of the woods, turned, and started walking down the trail in back of the other folks. And I'm in awe. I'm like, holy mackerel, what the heck is that, And for some strange reason, whatever it was, figured out really quickly that we were behind it. It turned around, looked at us, and then whatever it was squatted down in the trail. Could see the eyes, kind of get down lower to the ground. And I'm like, oh my God, this is nuts. So we're looking at it.
It's nuts.
My wife, she's going to see this. And then before I went, the guy from Wisconsin's like, hey, you want to look at it with this? Like, what do you got? And he handed me the $6,000 FLIR thermal imaging camera. And I'm like, can you show me how to work this thing? He goes, oh, through here, and it was amazing, because now not only could I see eyes, but I could see an outline. And
because the eyes would be hot on the thermal.
Yeah, it was really kind of neat. And back when they had like the blue forum, there was actually a picture of the eyes on the blue forum.
Oh, our old BFRO, what do you call it? Message board.
Yeah. And so it was amazing. So at that point, I quickly skedaddled off the bridge and grabbed my wife. Figured, you gotta see this, So, she quickly came out onto the bridge, and pretty much everyone else came out too. And, they're passing the thermal around, everybody's checking it out, and, apparently it was just pretty amazing. And then eventually, whatever it was, got up, it had enough with us, and it went into the woods, back where it came from. So we're all on the bridge, we're all pretty giddy, and it's like, oh my God, and, we're talking, and then it started sneaking up on us. You could hear like a footfall, stop, and it got pretty close, and it was really kind of cool. And then at one point it picked up I'm assuming what was a large rock, and tossed it into the river, and then we never saw it again. It was amazing.
Did your wife, was she able to see it too?
She was able to use the thermal, and and
could she see the red eyes with her own naked eye?
She could. She was like, oh my, there is something going on,
Did you have a sense from the amount of ambient light that night that it was reflection, or did you start to think, well, this can't be just reflection?
I was still up in the air at that point, but listening to the other folks who had like significantly more experience than me talk, they were like, oh, it's eye glow, no, it's eye shine, and at that point that kind of put the bug in my ear, like, I didn't really see any real crazy amount of moonlight, but it could be.
Right, it still could have been, because you don't know how very reflective their Lincoln, what do you call it? The link. I'll put it on the screen, the word. But you then, another night in Iowa, you saw a bunch of them with eye glow, right?
The following night, again, it's like, hey, who wants to go here? Who wants to go there? So my wife and I decided that there was one of the, Larry from Wisconsin, one of the BFRO guys, was taking a group across that bridge we'd been driving by. And it's like, okay, we're going to go in here, and part of the group will split off and go down into this swamp, and then the other part of the group, we're going to, kind of come up here, and we're going to go up this road into this, towards this abandoned apple orchard. And so it's like, cool, let's go with them, and it's not supposed to be a really, strenuous hike, so it's like, what the heck, let's go. So there were 3 folks of the group who split off and went down towards this swamp. And I think there were 6 of us what is 6? 1, 2, I don't know, I forget exactly, but there were probably maybe 6 of us. And then we went down the road, and we're coming up, this really long, rutted out, the rain hadn't been kind to this road, and it was really rutted, so the going was actually a lot tougher than we thought. And as we're going up, off to the right, I was really excited. I'm like, oh, there's something really cool in red, and that created and we all stopped and looked, and that created a conversation about everything isn't Bigfoot. Because at that point, what we were seeing through the trees was the tip of a radio tower. And so it had a red flashing light, to warn away aircraft or whatever. And it was a really good conversation we had about, hey, you really got to make sure what you see, document what you see. But just because you see something doesn't mean it's Bigfoot. And I'm like, okay, I can live with that. That's pretty cool. So it's like, okay, let's continue on. We got up to just about cresting the top of the road when somebody else pointed out, oh my God, look off to the left. And we looked to the left, and it was almost like they were floating. And you could see, we saw like blue I think there was blue, 2 sets of red, 2 sets of white, and then I think 1 set of green eyes. And it almost looked like they were floating. And it was really amazing. And they took up positions behind trees. And at one point, the red ones were like one above the other, which, again, if I had to assume, maybe it was a juvenile on top of, like being carried, or on top of, maybe an adult or something. But we continued to watch. And at one point, it was really cool. The 3 folks who had gone down into the swamp, started coming up the hill. And they didn't know we were like, like radio silence, So they didn't know what was going on, and we didn't expect them to be coming up the hill. So they started making all this noise, and they eventually get up and we're like, shh, hey, strangeness is going on. And, and at one point, one of the guys in the group got significantly farther ahead. So he was getting a better angle. And, me, I was kind of like, oh, yeah, I'll be kind of macho here. And, it's really funny. I tell my wife, hey, I'm going up there with him. So I worked my way up, and I was watching one of the ones with the white eyes, and it was really creeped me out because it was like belly crawling on the ground, and it was coming towards me, and I'm like, kind of like, whoa, gee, I don't know if I like this. So the guy was,
you're like, dude.
I'm like, hey, I'm going back with them, So at that point, I kind of retreated back a little, and it was pretty crazy. And I know my wife was able to see 2 of them run away. At one point, just towards the end, 2 of them ran away, and one went really fast, and then one, it was almost like, a lot of people were saying, oh, maybe that one was a juvenile because it just couldn't keep up. And
could you ever, at any point during all of this, could you see, and again, it's okay if you don't have this memory, but like how do you say, like a beam in the air emerging from the eye?
I don't recall seeing that at any point. Again, wasn't quite sure how close they really were to us. But it was really amazing because, again, as they were moving, it almost seemed like, their movements were almost like floating, which was like, holy poop, something's going on here, and this is weird.
Well, you've heard that before, but it's different to experience it in the flesh right there.
Oh, it was pretty crazy. And again, this was my second expedition that I had been on.
I know, you're so lucky.
So I'm like going, this is pretty crazy. And it's neat because it was my wife's first, And then at one point, we're all whispering really quietly amongst each other. And all of a sudden, they started whispering. And that was really freaky when...
What? I never heard this part, Jeff.
Oh, I told you this.
Oh, my God.
But they started talking and couldn't understand anything they were saying. It was kind of gibberish, but it was like, we'd talk. And then you'd hear, like, chirps and like, slight whistles. And it was just really bizarre. It's like...
Did the whispering sound like human whispering, just like it? Or only you couldn't understand it?
It sounded human-esque, I guess, but definitely couldn't understand it at all. But you knew it didn't sound animal, like it wasn't a dog, it wasn't...
It wasn't one of those whispering dogs.
Yeah, exactly. It was really odd, and again, it was something that I had never experienced before, so it really caught me aback. I'm like, oh my, this is really bizarre. And what was really cool was, as it ended, there was a huge wood knock. It's like, bam! And as soon as that wood knock happened, it's like the lights just went out and they disappeared. And they just, again, 2 had already run off, and then the rest, they just kind of faded. It's almost like they shut their eyes off or something, and then they faded out and they drifted away.
Yeah, actually, that reminds me. A lot of reports I've heard also kind of confirm that they can modulate their eyes, not just close them, but that they don't just disappear, but they kind of like a rheostat almost. They just go down and down and down. Yeah, they'll often give a final knock at the end of a sort of episode, kind of like a period at the end of the sentence. I had that happen in Whitehall. My one really great encounter in Whitehall, where we heard the whoop, and then we had 45 minutes of talking to it, and it was knocking and throwing big things into the swamp water in between us, and like boosh, and then it stopped responding to us, or stopped behaving in that way, and then we finally reluctantly left. And right when we were at the edge of the field by the road, we heard one final behind us. It was just perfect, just like what you had there. Well, you can see, I mean, now personally and immediately you know how it is that this species has come down through the legends to embody some sort of demon or werewolf with these glowing red eyes,
I mean, after all, bioluminescence doesn't have to be seen as all that mysterious. It just really comes down to a chemical reaction.
I mean, it's a natural ability they have, but it perfectly maps onto our primal fears. So it's just like a perfect storm that way.
Yeah, it's really amazing. Whatever it is, it's like, oh my, how can they turn them on, turn them off? Even just seeing the red and the blue and the green and the different colors, it's like, that in itself is pretty amazing. I'm used to the usual, oh hey, white-tailed deer, flashlight on, their eyes, shut it off, no eyes.
Always the same color.
Always the same color, and
Well, Jeff, this has been fascinating, and I'm really glad because I've been riveted by your stories over the years, and I'm glad we finally caught lightning in a bottle. And I think this is your first video interview, isn't it?
I prefer to be in the shadows, and I don't know, but I really like you, and I've enjoyed spending our time together on expeditions, and figured that what the heck.
Thank you, my friend.